So, can you share maybe a few memorable stories that stick out in your mind from flying the Sea King that might be interesting to our viewers?
Yeah, of course. Um, what would they be? Well, probably let's do a couple then. So, I talked about being Seeking Mark IV pilot. So that was, as I say, based on the south coast, and search and rescue is a really unbelievably rewarding job. And as
Mm.
I said, you fly with a single pilot, and you flew an aircrew and then a diver, and you just sort of sit around. It was just a lot of time I was sort of sitting around reading the newspapers. But the aircraft, the helicopter, would be prepared and ready to go. So you would try and get airborne within about 3 minutes. So if the call came, it would be a big klaxon noise throughout the squadron buildings, and the pilot would run out and try and get the helicopter sort of start up as quick as they could. At that point, the engineers would also come out, so the ground crew would come out to allow you to start it and to engage the rotors. And at some point, normally when both engines are running, the rotors started, the air crewman would come out, and all they would just say is that head east or head north or south or whatever it be. So you get the aircraft airborne, and you do your after takeoff checks, and then you sort of head out to the direction. And only at that point would you sort of find out what the job was. The one which is quite memorable was it got called to Lulworth Cove, and is on the south coast. And if you don't know, the helicopter probably wants to hover into wind, and the reason for that is you get a better performance, so less power required. And because of the wind direction, it was quite difficult to get the aircraft in position so you could be facing the cliff. And so you effectively had to back it up. And this really typifies how we'd operate. So I'd get the aircraft or helicopter stable in a position, and the aircrew would come to me, say, come right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, stable. Come back to, etc. And we do the same thing. So
Mm.
as a helicopter pilot, you need static visual references to hover. So you want to pick a tree or something which wasn't going to move. And on this particular job, we knew that what happened is a young person, a young child, had sort of fallen down the cliff, fallen about 40 feet down the cliff.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a wow moment. It's not anyone falling anything really down the cliffs is doesn't bode well, does it?
Mm.
So anyway, but on the top of the cliff, there's this woman, and she was distraught. And I kept on focusing on this woman, and I just came to the conclusion it must have been this person's mum, this young boy's mum. And I just said to myself, stop focusing on the mum, stop focusing, concentrate on what you're doing, just get your normal visual references.
Mm.
And in those days, we didn't have any sort of comms between, once the diver had gone out on the winch, you didn't have any comms, it was all hand signals. So the crewman in the back, not the diver, the diver would go down, the crewman in the back would sort of give me a commentary. So, Whiskey, as an example, was on the cliff. He's with the casualty. He's got the casualty. He's been winched up now and then brought into the aircraft. And what would normally happen is that the air crewman, who was sort of first aid trained and very highly trained, I have to say, and extraordinarily talented people, would then make an assessment saying, look, this person needs to go to hospital immediately or whatever it is. We would normally take them to hospital. But because the emotional thing attached to it, we thought, the greatest thing we can do now is really unite this young man who actually was completely untouched from his drama falling 40 feet. So yes, we landed on the cliff, and Whiskey took this young guy out and sort of reunited, and that was a real moment actually. So a real moment. And this is just one job which we did. So they're all different, and but it just, I don't know, for some reason, it just stuck with me. Especially being a parent now, sort of
Of
can
course.
imagine what it'd like to sort of have one of your child's one day not knowing, and not knowing the outcome, effectively, how badly injured they were, or even if worse, if they didn't survive. So that was a story stuck out. The other one I think is that same unit actually. It's based at Portland, which is a squadron called 772 Squadron. Again, doesn't exist anymore. And we had this role called Maritime, Counterterrorism, MCT, and that was extraordinarily rewarding in terms of a helicopter pilot. So if if something happened to like a ship or a UK registered ship or a what are they called, oil rigs or something like that, or gas rig, to be compromised, then there was a unit around which you sort of go and help out, and we would fly in fairly low, as fast as we could, and we'd sort of drop soldiers and special people to go and sort of sort this situation out. And so that was a very rewarding job actually doing that. So we'd do that for ships at night or oil rigs at night. So that's probably the pinnacle of my helicopter flying. Quite exhilarating, actually, really exhilarating. And it's a time when sort of NVGs were sort of coming in, so you would start off flying with those sort of night vision goggles. They were very early stages. I think they're much better now. It's like looking through two sort of telescopes with toilet rolls.
I've heard that before, yeah.
Probably Mandy said that, actually. She probably said that. I think she described that as, I think when she did
sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah.
Great stuff. But it sounds like you had a great time on the Sea King. But how would you sum up the aircraft, and how many hours did you get on it?
I probably did about half my time in the Navy. I did flying the helicopters, which mainly would be Sea Kings, and probably got about 2,000 hours on the Sea King. But I like moving forward. I like moving forward in my in life, in terms of my career and that sort of thing. But I always wanted to do other things, so there's a desire to do other things in the Navy.